for this week's show, we're actually going to cover the greater topic of the makeup supply chain and some fun facts that you may not know. So now that you have the roadmap for the show, let's get back to the article in hand. And that is isometric technologies, which we've talked about them a bunch before, which is pretty much like a credit score for freight brokers.
Yeah.
Shippers and carriers can also use it as well in order to find those great broker relationships. But they honored the 50 transportation providers with service awards. So set this one up for us. Why is this a big deal?
So this is cool because it kind of showcases to you like the long-term effects. It's funny, Thomas brought this up to me, clearly this isn't going to include every single carrier in the industry because you have to be connected, or at least like the companies you work for need to be somehow connected to ISO in order to qualify for this. So clearly, if you haven't run a load for a shipper or someone who uses ISO's technology, then you probably won't show up for this. But it is interesting to see this kind of like third-party review of what carriers and logistics providers are truly doing for their customers. And it's all data related, right? It's not how you feel. It's not just a nomination based off of, a quick thought. It's actual, like, here is the statistics behind the work that you do. It's an actual grade. And I thought it was pretty interesting, especially like looking into some of like retailer statistics. If you click on, I think I put a link into their blog there too. They dive into a lot of this directly as well. For instance, like getting into on-time deliveries for instance, Walmart hit 87.7%, which, kind of, it's interesting to see that, especially from the point of view that like Walmart just recently dropped their on time and full performance levels down to 90. So they're getting closer to like what actually is happening. And if you as a servicer of Walmart are saying you're trying your hardest and you're only at 65-70%, well, now maybe there's some ways that we can improve if everyone on average is getting close to 87%. So I think that's cool. It's like a way for you to actually judge your business and your solutions and your actual quality of service based on your peers in a way, right? So of course it's interesting as well going into some of the winners, like especially for best carriers for retail. I mean, statistically wise, GAT of Fort Wayne was number one for Walmart. And I think sometimes you sit back and think, can I be a carrier and not be like Schneider or some of these big guys and still compete? Yeah, you can. Kroger was Buchanan Hauling and Rigging, which I've used before. Great company. I love this one. C.H. Robinson had the best service awards for Amazon, which is just like funny to me. Like one of the biggest public logistics companies is being serviced by another large public logistics company, right? Very well. So it shows you how fragmented this market really is and how much we need all the players in it. So I just think it's kind of cool to even see, like, for instance, it was brought up Uber Freight, right? Had the best service for the Southeast region. So it kind of like shows you, like, when we all pick up the phone and we call people and we say, yeah, like what lanes are available today? Like at some point, it's going to turn into a conversation of like this, like what region are you best in? And can you answer that question as an organization?
Are you in freight sales with a book of business looking for a new home? Or perhaps you're a freight agent in need of a better partnership? These are the kinds of conversations we're exploring in our podcast interview series called The Freight Agent Trenches, sponsored by SPI Logistics. Now, I can tell you all day that SPI is one of the most successful logistics firms in North America who helps their agents with back office operations such as admin, finance, IT, and sales, but I would much rather you hear it directly from SPI's freight agents themselves. And what better way to do that than by listening to the experienced freight agents tell their stories behind the how and the why they joined SPI. Hit the freight agent link in our show notes to listen to these conversations, or if you're ready to make the jump, visit spi3pl.com.
One of our good friends, Brittany Trailer, right, of Trailer Transpo, if I really love the work that she does, because if you go to her website, or if you are even like listen to some of her sales pitches and content that she makes, like she's never like, we go everywhere. She's always constantly like, we are very good at the Southeast. And if they start to gain traction in another lane, she'll bring that up. And I think that's where we're going to start to see some of these calls going to. And for shippers out there might be watching and listening, like have that type of discussion with people. If someone calls you and says, hey, what are you working on? And you just, and they just say, well, so, like, we've got carriers everywhere. Like, put that to a halt. Like, start sticking up for yourself in the freight that you have, and say, listen, like, what lanes are you good at? Because we both know that you're not good at going everywhere. So I think it's just going to set a bit more of a standard, a bit more transparency, right, in terms of what our peers are doing. And I also love the honorable mention of Convoy at some point in this.
I did notice that.
Yeah. Because they would have, like I said, they would have been an ISO winner. So RIP, I guess.
Yeah.
So, I don't know
Does that award now transfer over to Flexport too?
Right? Yeah, you did it again, Peterson. You didn't even know that you did it, but you did it. So I guess so.
I have a dumb question. What's RDD appointments?
I think that's let me double check, because I had it in some of my notes, but I can't remember now.
Sorry, I know I put you on the spot there.
No.
I'm trying to see if they actually explained it in the post, because I think that these numbers are pretty interesting, because it says who is responsible for 23% of missed RDD appointments. So I guess
want to required delivery date.
That's okay.
Yes. So it's like you got there on time, the day you're supposed to. You wouldn't say, hey, like, ooh, something happened, we'll be here tomorrow. Because a lot of time, like if you work with Walmart and stuff like that, right, they'll say, get it here as long as it's no later than this date. So that's likely, like, they might have delivered a day early or something along those lines too.
And so it's pretty interesting to say, before the ISO workflow, here's the responsible party. So 64% of folks were blaming the carrier. But then after ISO gets involved, or after you start working with ISO, only 44% of late deliveries were the carrier's fault. And so I think that that's super interesting, because the retailers both jumped. Retailers and shippers jumped after that. And so I wonder if customer is the same as retailer, that you can compare those to the same here. So that's interesting to see that, before maybe, the shippers and the customers were blaming the carrier. Whereas if you dig a little bit deeper into the data and some of the benchmarking items that you were laying out, that it increases the blame and the failure on the retailers and the shippers. And so from that lens, maybe it's almost like putting up a mirror to some of these shippers of, you're the reason why you're experiencing some of these problems that you're going through, instead of always just blaming the carrier.
I truly think that, like, when I brought up Walmart earlier, and I think that's why they've brought their service level requirements down as well, because I think for them, learning about why some of these hiccups occur and how all of this gets to, why that bad behavior is happening is something they care more about than just having a perfect supply chain, right? Like, for instance, let's say they're working with a popsicle manufacturer, and whenever that popsicle manufacturer's logistics company goes to make an appointment for Walmart, there's nothing within 24 hours. So it makes it very difficult, right, to find a truck who's going to be there perfectly without anything spoiled, or sitting over the weekend, or putting the shipment at risk. So, like, knowing, like, listen, we need more lead time in order to move some of the fresh produce. And I think that's what they're looking for more, is like, okay, as long as you're near the 90, we don't care what happened. We want to know what's happening in that 10% that's not getting us there, right? So I think they're being more open than they ever were before.
Brokering success demands a battle-ready strategy. TIE TMS equips freight brokers with the ultimate battle station for conquering a tough market. With TIE, brokers gain access to a comprehensive platform where rate intelligence and quote history converge on a single screen. It's not just a page, it's a strategic command center designed to help brokers win. Tie equips your team with all of the data they need to negotiate with confidence and allows them to communicate directly with carriers and customers from a simple control base. Revolutionize the way your brokers perform by giving them a competitive advantage with Tie TMS. For more info, go to tai-software.com/battle stations, and we also have a link for you in the show notes to sign up for a demo.
Yeah, I think that that's super interesting. So that's a great breakdown, and we've talked about ISO before, in the past or on this show about it being, sort of why. I wonder why it took so long for people to start getting these benchmarking insights from brokerages, because it's been such a battle over the last year or so. When you refer to like broker transparency and things, that is something that carriers are really pushing for. I'm just
I
a
think
little shocked that it took this long for something like this to come to market, but thankful it's here regardless.
I think a little bit has to do with how you're making money off of it.
Mm.
I'm just gonna kind of whisper that out there. Uh, I think that question comes up a little bit, right? Because you want to make sure you stay avoiding pay for play type of situations.
Mm.
But I think the way that I've seen like the platform, and I've kind of sat in like a selling situation, if that's what you want to call it. And it's valuable. It's worth, I think, what they're selling it for. It's just kind of we're not going to get into it, but again, are you training your teams to use this data on phone calls, in conversations, to actually be worth the ROI at the end of the day. So, and it's not that bad, to be honest with you.